family, his wife, his son Prabhat, his other son Tarini, and daughter Sandhya, they are here, and his Alaya and wife of Prabhat,
daughter.
and Naro, and yeah.
Your daughter.
Naro is the wife.
Yeah, Nara is the wife. Sorry, I'm so sorry. My apologies. And there are the family, the brother, whose name was Avani, his wife, Puna is also here. So I will start this condolence memorial meeting with I will request Miniji to please briefly, whatever you want to say, you have a time for 10 minutes, and within 10 minutes you can speak about him and his, how as husband, as a friend, as a husband, how you know about him and how you narrate about him, how you know from your horse's mouth, we want to. And because these are very interesting thing that despite Mr. Chandola born and brought in the remote hills, like I born and brought in remote hills, and I also traveled to Nagaland to cover the stories and to cover the elections, and I saw this total conflicting cultures. कुछ भी नहीं मिलता है, दोनों अलग अलग है कल्चर, उनका जो रीति रिवाज है, उनका जो खाना पीना है, लाइफ स्टाइल है, there is no, you can't compare two things, isn't it? So I will request Nimini ji, please kindly tell something about Harish ji. Thank you.
Sorry. See, I cannot express how touched and moved I am and my children, grandchildren. As I was explaining to Mr. Akira, that Delhi is such a busy place. Everybody is so busy. And to have a meeting even between families also, it is difficult. And you have come today, taking your time and to come and to be with us in this place where, as a journalist, as a young person, you must have become a member. And for me, this is the show of love, show of kindness that you show each other, giving time, and it's so moving, and we are healed. My husband passed away gently, peacefully, in the morning of 26th March. I just want to briefly say that we wanted him to wait a bit longer, as we always do, but in the morning, early morning, he passed away. And on the next day, on Monday, we had a cremation, and I was surprised that so many of his colleagues.
I beg your pardon. I will request Sri P. Nuniyal Sahab, please come on the dais. And I will request Bharat Bhushan ji, please, both the gentlemen, my apologies that, because of the so many things we started it. Please, Bharat. And Mr. B.N. Unyal, they were close friends, we worked together, and 6 years back, 6 years back, myself, B.N. Unyal Sir, Chandola Sir, B.M. Badoda Sir, we have a dinner at the residence of Mr. B.N. Unyal. So
Mr. Unyal, old friend, Harish's old friend. They have so many stories. One day I must come again. And I tried to get in touch with him, but I didn't have his number anymore. And I asked friends, please tell Mr. Unyal. I feel so touched to be able to come. God bless you. But you were there. They were there. Thank you for being there. And these are very precious moments. And I think I will just briefly narrate. After the cremated on the 27th, on the 29th, my children, Prabhat, Sandhya, Tarani, and I, we hired a taxi. We took some of his ashes and we went to Govinda, his village in Foreign District, where his father and mother had moved from Thapli village down there, and there is still only one house in that huge mountainside. And we said, we'll take some of this ash back to the village, plant 4 trees in the name of his children, so that he will always be. He will never leave Karwa, the place of his birth. And we touched the soil, and God has blessed us that day it rained, and we know that those trees will thrive and live. I believe it. And see, going back to our own place, touching the soil, and he wanted to do that, but he was so sick, he could not move. And that is one part of which we were able to do. And another thing that I want to inform you is that the month of March had been difficult for our family. His younger brother next to him also passed away on the 4th of March. And Harish passed away on the 26th. And we were able to go and visit family in Uttarakhand. So, in a way, look, when we look at it, it's kind of a perfect timing so that we can be together, share each other's grief. And I am so moved that today, some of these old colleagues are here in spite of the difficulties in their health. And I want to say that I'm from Nagaland, he is from Garhwal. We met each other in Shillong, and many of you journalists must have been to the northeast, Shillong, you know. And when I first came to Delhi, of course we came to the press club, and here the same thing, I think it hasn't changed much. And one thing I always noticed with Harish was he never used to take alcohol, but all his friends are very happy people. They always love to have a good people. And this is one thing. And his best friends are all happy people. And this is one thing I can say. And whenever we come to Press Club, it's a warm, happy feeling of as if when we sit out there having some meal or just having a drink, there's so many stories. And Punyalji, I remember the last time that we came, how both of your stories were taller than both of you. It went on and on from the way that you were traveling or covering some stories, but most of all, I think their experience with meeting with different politicians and whatnot were so colorful and so good, you know. I hope the younger people will also have the same kind of interesting and experience. But it seems to be so innocent when I think back and to the present case. One thing I mentioned on this the day he was cremated was I paid homage to my father-in-law, mother-in-law. They are from the village. They never expected that their son would marry somebody quite different and from a different background, different tribe, different religion. I'm sure. But they never experienced and they never expressed any bewilderment or disappointment. They were so good to me. My sister-in-laws, my brother-in-laws, all of them, they call me Bobby, touch my feet. And this time also when we met each other, we all remember the time when in the village in Balinda, how the sister-in-laws carry the water on the head, no water, no electricity, and I carry the water like a man on my shoulder. And it still is a kind of a mirth and laughter whenever they talk about it. And just day before yesterday, my sister-in-law came and she was narrating how we used to carry water. These are the bonds, these are the joy of just being family. And we have no difference. And I think when I think of the present situation, things are so different, isn't it? And even back home, also when Harish travels, he is identified as a Naga, and actually he's more Naga than myself because he has seen more places in Nagaland than me. And we only know the extent of his work through his book. We are discovering about him. And so I'm amazed that the extent of our difference is so small when you compare the sort of things that we can share in two different regions, two completely different regions. Deepak Dewan also, I know you have been part of Nagaland. And Bharat also, you have been so much part. And people like that, you know, I can say that those of you who knew Harish had said that we went to Nagaland because we first reported to Nagaland. And that's why I feel so proud whenever I hear this thing. My children were all born in different places, and I'm sorry to say I never learned to say Hindi very much, but I can speak a little bit. But one thing I know is that he also never learned our language, and so both of us in the same situation. And one thing I know is that, he loved the hills, and that is the one thing. And he said, one thing I know is that, his friend said that, Harish, try to get a flat in Crescent Cliff. That was in 1970, something like that, in Singapore. He said, why should I stay in Delhi? I said, everybody was having a sort of this thing, trying to get a flat in Crescent Cliff. He said, I'm not going to live there. I'll go back to the hills. And rightly so, he went back to the hills after wandering all over the world. But his good friends forced him to apply for this place in Crescent Cliff. That's how we got it, actually, through the sort of insistence of his friends. Because for him, he was an itinerant traveler. He loved going from place to place, but he would always go back to the hills. And that's why he went to Joshimath, a very remote, high place. Doctors have told him many times, it's too high, the altitude is very high, not good for your health. But he could not stay away very long. And that was one of his problems with his health. And I'm glad that we were able to take part of his ash back to Colonial. Because it is there. We will take it. As when we have the time, we will go back to Joshimath. Also, we will come since there. And one thing, unless we return to our own land, to our own soil, we will never grow. And this is, I wanted my children also always to say that wherever we are, if we have the soil under our feet and we can touch the soil, we always feel belong. We will always belong to that place, and we belong to this country, to the hills, to our beloved country. And you are all there because you have heard of him, and you have also met him. And thank you for your kindness, the way that you have given him kindness. Many things that I want to say, but one thing is I think I will leave the rest of the story to the friends who narrate his story. And my thanks to all of you who pressed up here to arrange this tribute and condolence meeting. And as a family, we thank you. And as a family, we will be having a tribute and celebrating his life on 7th, that is on Friday, at 6:30 at India International Center at the auditorium. Whoever has died, you are most welcome to come and celebrate his life. We welcome you and we send an open invitation to you. Thank you. May God bless you.
Thank you, Miniji. Thank you very much. Before I will invite Mr. Bharat Bhushan, who was the executive editor with Hindustan Times, and Mr. Chandola was the stringer of the Hindustan Times in Joshimath. So they were having very close interaction, unlike me. So before Mr. Bharat Bhushan will speak to you, I will request Mr. Satish Jacob to very briefly about brief introduction about Mr. Chandola Ji. So I will request Satish Jacob to read out, please.
Thank you very much, Jacob. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Am I loud and clear? Well, before I read the background, it is written here Harish Chandola. But I never called him Harish. I called him Harris. He and I had a very private and intimate relationship, and he used to enjoy me calling him Harris. Because Harris for me. you, I must tell you that it was a wonderful opportunity for all of us in the press club to know Harish, and he was a wonderful guy. So let me read out his background. Harish Chandola was a journalist of over 60 years, 6 decades, with a vast experience of covering conflicts and wars in Africa and Asia. He began his career in journalism with a series of articles written on his experience of travels inside Tibet in 1950 and 1954. He went into Tibet from his native Gawa on foot, since there were no roads, and was detained by the Chinese for 3 months. But I'm not sure whether he had Chinese food there or not. In 1955, he was posted to Shillong as the Northeast correspondent for the Times of India. That was the beginning of his long and intimate association with the region, especially with the Naga national movement, which had just launched its armed struggle. In the 60s, he was posted to Cairo, from where he covered the Algerian War of Independence and was witness to the setting up of the Organization of African Unity, OAU. In 1964, Harish returned to India on the request of Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri. He assisted the peace mission trying to broker peace between the Nagas and the Indian government. Thereafter, Harish was posted to Singapore and was a correspondent for several Indian and British newspapers. He covered the wars in Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, and later the events in Malaysia and Indonesia. From Southeast Asia, he once again found himself in the Middle East, where he covered the Iran-Iraq war, the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait, and the US-led Gulf War. He returned to India in 1993. He survived by his loving and remembered wife, Minnie, their children, Sandhya, Prabhat, and Tarana, daughters-in-laws and grandchildren. May God bless his soul.
I will request Bharat Ji to say a few words.
Thank you. I came to know Mr. Harish Chandola quite late in my life. But I had been fascinated by him. I had heard stories about him. I'm a Garhwali myself. So he was a legend. So I used to wonder, who is this man who was friends with Yasir Arafat, who was friends with Lal Bahadur Shastri, Indira Gandhi, Moti Lal. There were apocryphal stories about him that wherever he was in the world, he would be called back by Indira Gandhi before elections and would be asked to travel around India and see what the political mood was. And there were stories about his stay in Nagaland, that how he had married one of the 3 most beautiful sisters, the Kevichusa sisters, fell in love, married her, how Nehru wanted to throw him out of Nagaland, and how a Angami chieftain broke a Ulster's head on his scalp and adopted him as his son when he became a Naga. I don't know, you'll have to ask Nehru's ghost, but and how he then became a Naga and couldn't be thrown out. So I was fascinated by both Harish Chandola and the Nagas. And it was this fascination, without knowing a Naga, single Naga, without knowing Harish Chandola. I approached my friend Deepak Diwan here and I said, look, I want to know about the Nagas, can you help me? He said, well, the way to know the Nagas is to know the Naga national movement. I'll introduce you to the NSCNI. Very rare in a journalist to share his sources and share his contacts, but he's a large-hearted man, Deepak. He took me to Bangkok, introduced me to NSCN. It so happened that one day I was sitting in my office, I get a call. And the caller said, I am Harish Chandola and I would like to come and see you. I said, come anytime. I was so pleased. He turned up in my office at Indian Express. We chatted. We exchanged stories. He was trying to build his house in Joshimath, and he said I must come and visit him, and what a beautiful view it has, etc. So I started finding out more about him. I'll tell you just two stories about him, which will be patient with me. The first one is, it's written here, but I had heard a different version. He was working on the desk in Hindustan Times. Devdas Gandhi was the editor, and he went for his summer vacation to Garhwal, as most Garhwal is known. And that time, Bhutia traders used to come from Tibet. They would come with sheep, and these sheep would have saddlebags, and they would bring stuff from Tibet and take salt and other things. This used to happen even in my childhood, because I've had these Bhutia traders hosted in my grandfather's house, and the whole oven full of 50 odd sheep with these saddlebags. So those traders told him that the Chinese had taken over Tibet. Being a journalist, he said, will you take me there? So they were walking back, so he walked back to Tibet. From Mana, he crossed over into Tibet. I don't know what happened, but he was arrested. The Chinese thought he was a spy and so on and so forth. Finally, they couldn't speak his language, he couldn't speak their language. They got an interpreter from Beijing finally, and they found out he was not a spy. He was released. Now this young journalist comes back to Delhi, is very excited, goes to Devdas Gandhi, Ji Sir, editor of Hindustan Times, and says, sir, the Chinese have taken over Tibet. They've invaded Tibet, they've captured Tibet. So he said, you're back from holidays, you've taken such a long time, go and report to the chief sir. He said, sir, Chinese have taken over Tibet. He said, I told you, go and report to the chief sir. He goes to the chief sir. The editor wasn't interested in his story. Now this young man obviously couldn't sort of contain his excitement, so he talked about it to people in Statesman. The Statesman published the stories. The stories were then picked up by the Guardian Sunday paper, The Observer. I think it was a 3-part story. They paid him quite handsomely for it. Now once that big story broke, I mean it was the story of the century, the Chinese takeover of Tibet. And Devdas Gandhi may have been a great man, but he was a bad editor. He hadn't seen the relevance of that news. And so he called Harish and told him, you must issue a statement saying that your stories have been stolen. That, you did not give it to the Statesman, you did not give it to the Observer. He said, why should I? I gave it to them and I even got paid for it. I brought the story to you first. You didn't recognize that it was a story. Why should I lie to you? So he was sacked. This was the first big story. Like all good journalists, you do a big story, you lose your job. And that's what happened to Harish Chandola. The second story is, and those of you, I don't know how many of you have read his autobiography, it's really worth reading. He was posted in Damascus. And one day, the Syrian government took friendly journalists to a Air Force base, which was hidden inside a huge olive orchard, and showed them the place, etc. So Chandola came back, and he realized something big had happened, that they had shown him a secret place. So that evening he had dinner with the Indian ambassador, one Mr. Sathe of the IFS, was the ambassador in Syria. He told him, ambassador, you know the Syrians have a secret place inside this olive orchard, etc. Told him what he saw there, etc. And that was it. I mean, it was a dinner time conversation. 2 days later, at a cocktail party, I know he didn't drink, but he was at a cocktail party, and an American diplomat came to him, who knew him, and said, so Harish, the Syrians took you to the secret Air Force base. So he said, but who told you? He said, you went and told your ambassador, didn't you? Now, he knew that the ambassador would not have told the Americans. So he went back to the ambassador and said, listen, how do the Americans know about this secret base? And they know that I told you. Who did you talk to? He said, well, I talked to the raw man here, RNAW person. He said, what's his name? He says, his name is Ravinder Singh. He says, this Ravinder Singh is an American agent, Mr. Ambassador. Send a report back to India that Ravinder Singh is working for the CIA. Because whatever I told you was in confidence. You told him in confidence, he's gone and told the Americans. Now, whether Ambassador Sathe wrote a report or not, one doesn't know. But that same Ravinder Singh continued in RNAW, and 1.5 decades later was caught as a CIA agent, escaped from India to Nepal, and the Americans sent him to America. So that's the second story he broke, but again, like Devdas Gandhi, there was an ambassador there. or the foreign policy establishment of India, the foreign office, did not recognize the significance of what this man was telling them. I kept meeting Mr. Chandola. I even went to his house in Joshimath. But unfortunately, he wasn't there. So I told him I'd come there, but you weren't there. He said, oh, that must have been you. I said, what do you mean? He said, this boy who works for me, he said, एक साहब आए थे छिपकली नुमा गाड़ी पे, हरे रंग की छिपकली जैसी गाड़ी थी, उसमें आए थे. So those days, HT had given me a Honda City which was green in color. So I said, yes, that was me. He built a lovely house using all old doorways and windows from all abandoned houses, all typical Garhwali architecture. It's a lovely house with a beautiful view of Nanda Devi, and if I had a house like that, why would I want to Nanda Devi? I would live there. He lived there most of the time, but he couldn't stay in one place for long. He would drive down. So I would say, Chandola Sir, how do you drive down at your age all the way from Joshimath? He said, well, I drive down to Rishikesh, I stay the night in Rishikesh and then come to Delhi the next day. I said, so you have a place to stay in Rishikesh? He said, no. I said, where do you stay? He said, I park my safari and then I go to the banks of the river and I sleep on the sand at night. And in the morning I get up, have a wash and then come to Delhi. Very, very bohemian, adventurous lifestyle. Later on I found him in Bangkok. We were there in Bangkok, Deepak and I, covering the peace talks with the NSC and I. And there was a delegation of Naga elders. And lo and behold, which Naga elder is there? Harish Chandola. And he was being consulted as a Naga elder. And you know what could be a greater honor that a person who spent his time in Nagaland but was a Garhwali is seen as a Naga elder, and the insurgent groups wants his advice on how to deal with government of India. Now this is also significant because Harish Chandola bore no ill will to NSC and I, no bitterness, despite the fact that two of his brothers-in-law were assassinated by NSC and I. Weren't they, madam? And yet he bore them no ill will. He advised them as a Naga elder. That was Harish Chandola. I think Harish Chandola could have been a great editor like his peers. He chose to be a reporter's reporter and remained a reporter till the end of his life. One last thing, when I was in HT and he was a stringer, getting paid very badly, he called me and said, Bharat, I want to go to Mansarovar. The new route has opened and we are going to walk to Mansarovar. We are going to do Mansarovar Yatra, 1998. He said, will you give me the transport cost, etc. I said, yes, of course. So he went on that tour, and you remember there was a big landslide, and a lot of the yatris died, including Pratima Bedi. I get a call from Mr. Chandola saying, there's been a landslide, I've survived, but my passport, my clothes, all my belongings have been lost in the landslide. I said, don't worry, we'll make good your losses, we'll come back. And he wrote about it. He could write not only on politics, not only on war, but about almost anything. One of his finest pieces of reporting, and those who are from the hills will understand this, the series of reports on Nanda Devi Raja, which takes place, I don't know how many, once in
5 years. 12.
And he did a series of reports. He walked from Naughty Village up to Mana and up to Bahg and to the Alpine Meadows, and came back and wrote a series of absolutely fascinating stories about the culture of Garhwal and the legend of Nanda Devi. He was the kind of journalist I would have wanted to become, but I think God made only one Harish Chandola and then broke the mold. He'll be missed. He was a great journalist, and I hope people will read about him and learn from his activities and not be ambitious. Like he was not ambitious. He was ambitious about getting the news, not about building big posts or becoming a editor. I salute Harish Chandola and I've always been it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Balaji. So nice of you. Very nicely you have narrated your interaction with him and what he worked with you. That is also a great news for all of us. And I think I will request B.N. Uniyal Sahab and Deepak Dewan Sahab, if you want to say a few words, you can share your before Ben Unyal say something, I'll request you to say a few words.
Friends, I had shared some good moments with him. Apart from being a journalist, he was a very good observer also. And he was reader of my magazine, Northeast Sun. And in fact, when we started covering, he had covered the first round of Naga talks, which began in 1964. And we started doing from the 97. When the second round of Naga talks started with NSC and I. And the very first interview, which many auntie would remember, there was one question to NSCN leader, Mr. Muiwa. Why did his organization kill Mr. K.V. Chusa? He did not answer. Again I repeated my question. The people in Nagaland, they want to know who killed him and why. Again he did not answer. And the third time when I repeated the same question, then he gave me an answer. Because till that interview came into print or reached Nagaland, people had no idea who was behind the assassination of Mr. K. So in the interview they admitted, yes, it was done by their own. So after that interview appeared, and I remember I was traveling abroad for a month or so. When I came back, my office gave me a slip. There were no mobile phones that time, 97. There is one gentleman, Mr. Harish Chandola, who's been calling for the last 1 month, trying to speak. It was a landline number. So I think Delhi number only, your press. So where I spoke to him and he said, Deepak, thank you very much. You have done wonderful job which people of Nagaland will always remember your story. So he was that kind of man, he would appreciate, And as Bharat has said most of the things because he has worked with Bharat, but I interacted with him much later after 97. And we kept on meeting. Once I met Prabhat also, Prabhat here in the club, where Prabhat and we shared a beer and he said, no man, Nibu Pani piyunga. So he was a very nice soul, very friendly, and at length he talked to me about Naga issues. We shared what went wrong in the first round, and he said, this time also the government had sought his help again. But you know how the our agencies work, whether it's IB or RAW. What he faced last time also, probably this time also, they didn't sort of, even IPS officers become the IB chief, RAW chief, bureaucrats and all that. See, they always looked, I'm talking about the interlocutors or those who are handling Northeast, they always look at Nagas with suspicion. A person like Harish Chandola, who had his better half was Naga, they knew the difference between undergrounds, whom these IAS or IPS people addressed as undergrounds, whereas the locals call them national workers. That difference he knew, and that's what he also explained to me. I 100% agreed with him. The same approach, one of the interlocutors, Mr. R.S. Pandey had, who had served as the Chief Secretary in Nagaland, whose better half is also from Nagaland. So, whatever Mr. R.N. Ravi achieved, that framework agreement which was signed in 2015, that was prepared by Mr. R.S. Pandey. So the approach from outside Nagaland towards Naga, has to be different. That's how, that's what I feel that even now, we have to understand, we have to trust Nagas. Then only the solution will come through. But Mr. Chandola played a major role in his time, all the time. I wish him rest in peace, and my condolences to Mini Auntie. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jivanji. I will request Mr. Anand Sir, former President of India, please come on the dais, please. And I will request now P.N. Uniyal Sahab. They were all friends. I think more than 60 or 70 years they were friends, you know. And my last meeting and interaction with Harish Ji was at the residence of Mr. P.N. Uniyal. And I'm so grateful to him, sir, that he invited me to join the dinner with Mr. Vishwamohan Badola, Kainuli Sahab, and 2-3 other gentlemen were here, respected gentlemen. So I will request B.A. Uniyal Sahab to remember him, because he was the closest friend of Mr. Harish Chandola, B.A. Uniyal.
Hello? Hello, friends. I'm very well. And get out of that talking. I'm coming back from funeral to a condolence. And this has been going on for the last several months. Every week, one episode or another. I'm feeling not very well. But now with Harish, I knew Harish very well, and said, which may appear very ugly to you, but he was already a legion before I even thought of becoming a journalist. I first saw him, and saw is the right word because I can't say I met him, at the house of a senior Galwali journalist who was senior even to Harish. I don't know if anybody would have heard it here. At least some would know or may have heard of Arvind Kala. Arvind Kala's father was S.C. Kala, Shamajan Kala. He was in the Times of India, a sub-editor at the time. No, chief sub. And his younger brother was D.C. Kala, Durgacharan Kala, who was in the Hindustan Times, also a chief sub-editor. Later on, we used to call them single column Kala and double column Kala. D.C. Kala used to live in Janpura. I had gone to his house for him to help me get a job. This was in 1965 or 66 something. I had just given up a job as a sales rep in a cigarette company. And because I am not keeping well, doctors advised me to get a sedentary job. And somebody said the best sedentary job is to be a journalist. So I had worked before that with Caravan with Sarita, but never with the daily paper. So when I went one evening to Kala Sahib's house, Harish was sitting there. And I was treated and I was very young. So Kala Sahib didn't even introduce me, who is he. But when Harish was leaving, he just said that this young man wants a job. So Harish said, who can Harish is better than me? And I just heard his name Harish. And when we had gone, then Chandola. I heard of him. He was already legend by the time because of his exploits in Tibet and all over, and Nagaland. Almost every generation was given in Delhi. Whether west or Dakota. And then later on I discovered that he was from a village close to a place, the district headquarters of India. And by we went through. He 65 years, 66 sometimes he had come from Singapore. When you collect the I didn't know where he had come from. But I knew that, and then Kala told me something about it. Next I met him in Lucknow. First time I only saw him and never spoke. I don't think I even spoke to him. But in Lucknow, one day came, I was posted in Lucknow as a correspondent of Patriot. And then it can no longer exist, and I don't know how many of you have heard of it or remember them. So I was posted in Lucknow, and he must have come to know because he came looking for me, he came to my house and office, and I immediately recognized him. So that was the time when we really got close. Congress had just split, and he seemed to have a rising interest in Indian politics. Then, in Lucknow, I found him, he seemed to know everybody in Lucknow. Of all the places, even in Lucknow, wherever I would go, he would be already sitting there. He knew the chief ministers, he knew the ministers. And Lucknow was a small town at the time, but city was very politically important. In newspaper offices, he knew everybody. By that time, Kala had become a special correspondent of the Times of India, and they had been brought together in the Times. And since then, we know each other very long, and we have been together in many political shenanigans in Delhi. This is no time to recall them, there are too many stories. उर्दू में एक शेर है
बैठो कहाँ यार
कबीर है किस्सा कहाँ शुरू
इस पे नोट लिख रहे थे सब लोग
कहाँ से शुरू करें कहाँ समाप्त करें बहुत लंबी बातें हैं पर हम लोग बहुत साथ रहे और दिल्ली में बहुत पॉलिटिकल उथल पुथल करते थे हरीश मैं और नंद किशोर नौटियाल होते थे ब्रिज थे हम तीनों थे तो आर.के. धवन मिसेस गांधी के प्राइवेट सेक्रेटरी थे वो कहा करते थे कि हरीश बहुगुना की तीसरी आंख है और हरीश की खूबी ऐसी कि हरीश रहते बहुगुना जी के साथ थे पर लोग मानते उनको इंदिरा गांधी करते थे एवं बहुगुना जी भी कहते थे कि भाई हरीश ये बात ना बता देना बातें क्यों बता हरीश आके बाहर हमसे पूछते थे कि इसमें कितना सच कितना झूठ है और every day he met Mrs. Gandhi and every day, but he lived there. This is I am talking of the time when Bahuguna ji was leaving Congress. He was about to leave Congress. So every word mattered at the time. Very few people know that he is about to leave Congress. I think 3 of us and one other journalist and this one. We were really great. The duty of the journalist only one service you have been tell you about. I am feeling better. I'm sorry. You could sit with him for hours and you could speak for 2 hours and listen to him for another 3 hours and then at the end you would find he had spoken nothing. He had told you nothing. Said nothing. He could practically listen, interrupt you with a word here and with a word there. But disclose nothing. You couldn't find out where he was coming from, where he was doing, what he was doing. what story he was following, whom he was meeting, and he was wonderful. And not only me, even sometimes he was mystified. Also, he told me he was going to Moscow. I think that he was going to Damascus. And next week, I that he was actually in Moscow. He is very, he was not reticent, but he only made small interruptions in the conversation. And it seemed that he had spoken well, but he never let anything come out of the lips which he shouldn't, or he was following a pursuit. At the time he was working for Observer in London. I'm sorry, I am not acquainted with his journalism. I don't think I ever read any of his stories. I only heard from him and read his book, or books afterwards. I don't know how you people are interested in him, because I told you he was already leading in the 50s, it is 60, 70 years ago. And those stories, apart from exploits in Naga, are hardly numbered. There's so much in the Congress party, in the political scene in Delhi. He was involved in Congress split, in Mrs. Gandhi's fall, in Mrs. Gandhi's rise, in the rise of Janata Party, and from Lalu Yadav to Annadurai in Chennai. He knew everybody and he knew everything. Which was the beauty of a journalist, that you could keep good relations across the broad spectrum of politics, which is very difficult for most journalists. I, for one, was not capable of that. I don't know what else I can say. The stories that are abound, this is only take some time, and I don't think I can speak any longer. I'm sorry. But
Thank you, Nehru Sir. Despite he was not feeling well, I spoke to him last week also, and I requested him, please come for 5 months. So I'm so grateful. I'm personally grateful.
I'm sorry I could have mentioned it at the beginning, Mini for you and all others. Kanuli Sahib, who was to come today, Kanuli, myself, Harish, Nankishore Nautiyal, Vishnu Barola, then Ganga Prasad Vimal, who else was there? We were all together last time. Kanuli Sahib sprained his feet this morning. And his uncle is sprained, and he rang me up and he said, he is many and all friends, that he can't walk. So he couldn't come. I should have told it to Dini.
Thank you, sir. Nehru Sir, and I'm so grateful to you that you came despite you are not feeling well. So, Anand Sai Sahab, former President President of India, you will also remember him, because when I last spoke to Anand Ji on telephone, he remembered him that he was also fascinated with writing of Mr. Chandola. So I will request Anand K. Sahab.
Well, thank you for asking me to be here. I have seen Mr. Chandola's violence the time I was a little kid. And I did not have the good fortune of knowing him personally, but I did know his wife, and it was a very distinguished wife. And I don't know who prepared this text. I have not seen a more beautiful and a more comprehensive piece of writing about someone's life as this 3 pages. It's a very long text. And what caught my eye was the very last sentence. He was an audacious Indian in the most unlikely of places, who roamed the earth and has now returned to the land of his birth. This is how this ends. It's poetic. It tells you the tale of a man who was obviously illustrious. And evidently going through this, I realized you know, when you're a journalist yourself, you do not very much, you look at the writing, you read the story, and you know that someone is reliable, that you realize. But then you don't go very much beyond that. You just another journalist colleague. Now I've got two gurus sitting here. Moti Lal Sir, who was my guru as a patriot, and Satish Nikal. He was my guru partly in life and partly in journalism when he was at the dearest. So when they are around, I don't have very much to say really, except to say that he was obviously not only an eminent and illustrious journalist, but also a very illustrious citizen of this country. And that's quite evident. The kind of found himself in complex situations, reporting on the most complex of events in international life. In a certain sense, if you go through this, you realize that India's foreign policy, wherever there was some kind of journalistic interest, which means interest of ordinary reader. Why do journalists go somewhere? Because it's of interest, a much wider interest than only that which pertains to government, intergovernmental interactions. Much wider. So that is what Harish Chandola Sir, has given us through his life. So I salute his memory, and it was by sheer chance, by good fortune, I happened to just walk in. I didn't realize that there was this meeting going on. And my condolences to Mrs. Chandola and the family. Thank you very much.